Okay everyone, so here is the problem that we're going to be doing. We're going to write this in standard form that we're used to because this one is a rotated conic, so we want to write it in standard form. We're going to use those formulas that you saw here. They're on the front of that note sheet, and you'll see this example. I have it written sideways. That's just to give you plenty of room to write, because sometimes it can get a little bit lengthy. So just so you know, that's why I have it written like that. Okay, let's start with using these formulas. Let's find what theta is, and to find theta we're going to first do this formula. Okay, so I'll do it over here on the side. We've got cotangent of 2 theta is equal to a minus c over b. So we've got a, which is 7, minus c, which is 13, over b, which is 6 root 3. So that gives us negative 6 over 6 root 3, which gives us, oh, that's negative 6 root 3, so that's negative. So that gives us 1 over root 3. So if you have your 30, 60, 90 triangle, right, here's 30, here's 1, 2, root 3, here's 60. Cotangent, remember, flips tangent, so instead of opposite over adjacent, right, it would be adjacent over opposite. Okay? Which means that 2 theta is going to be 60 degrees. Okay, 2 theta is going to be 60 degrees. This is adjacent over opposite. So 2 theta is 60, which means theta is 30 degrees. So our rotation of our axes is a rotation of 30 degrees. The next thing we're going to do is figure out what x and y are equal to by using these formulas here. Okay? So I've got x is equal to x prime cosine theta minus y prime sine theta, and I have this equation for y. Y equals x prime sine theta plus y prime cosine theta. You don't need to memorize these formulas. I'm just going to show you how we're going to use them. Okay, so I'll write these down here on the, actually I'll write them over here and then I'll go on to a new page. So we've got x prime, x is equal to x prime cosine of 30, because our theta is 30, x prime cosine 30 minus y prime sine of 30. And so that gives me x prime. Cosine of 30 is root 3 over 2. Sine of 30 is 1/2. And so we can say then that x is x prime root 3 minus y prime over 2. That's our x value. Okay. Our y value then is going to be x prime sine of 30 plus y prime cosine of 30. And again, these formulas are just from that front side of the sheet. I'm just using these two formulas here, okay? So y is going to be x prime times 1/2 plus y prime times root 3 over 2. And so y is going to equal x prime plus y prime root 3, all of that, over 2. So that's our x value and our y value. So the first thing we needed to do was find theta. The next thing that we need to do is find x and y. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take this x value and take this y value and plug it in for x and y up here in our original equation and simplify that equation. So let me get a new sheet here. Okay, so now all I'm doing is substituting in. I have 7 times x squared. So that was x prime root 3 minus y prime over 2 squared minus 6 root 3 times x minus y prime over 2 times y, x prime plus y prime root 3 over 2 plus 13y squared, which is x prime plus y prime root 3, that's a prime, y prime root 3 over 2 squared, minus 16 equals 0. Okay, so all I've done is substituted in for x and y. Now I'm going to go through and multiply. So I'm going to keep this 7 out in front, and now I'm going to square this. Remember, the top is just a square of a binomial, right? So if you square that, we end up with root 3 times root 3. So that would be 3x prime. Let me fix that. So this is going to look a little crazy. I'm going to put this in parentheses, x prime squared, just so that it doesn't look like x to the 12th. Okay, so that's x prime squared minus x prime y prime times 2 root 3 plus y prime squared. That's all over 4 minus 6 root 3 and then we end up with x prime squared root 3. And I'm going to run out of room on my line here. I'm going to have to go on to a second line. This is why I wrote it sideways for you on your paper. Plus 3x prime y prime minus x prime y prime minus y prime squared root 3. That's all over 4. So I didn't combine my terms here. This is the actual FOIL. That's why there's 4 terms here. You can combine those middle terms. I just wanted to show you that whole step. Okay, so now I'm on this third part here where I have to expand that one. I'm just going to write it below it here. So that would give me plus 13 times, so I have x prime squared plus x prime y prime times 2 root 3 plus 3 y prime squared, all of that over 4 minus 16 is equal to 0. Okay, so what I'm going to do then is I'm going to go through and just clean this up a little bit. I'm going to multiply through by 4 to get rid of those denominators and just to kind of make everything just a little bit easier. And I know it looks like a huge mess right now, but I promise you it's going to clean up nicely as we go here. Okay, so we end up with 7 times 3x prime squared minus, I'm going to write this as 2 root 3x prime y prime. I'm just rewriting that middle term. Plus y prime squared minus 6 root 3 times x prime squared root 3. I'm going to combine those two terms, so that gives me plus 2x prime y prime minus y prime squared root 3. Then plus 13 x prime squared plus 2 root 3 x prime y prime plus 3 y prime squared minus 64, because I have to multiply that by 4 as well. Okay, so that's a little bit cleaner. Still have a ways to go. I'm going to distribute the 7, and I'm going to distribute the negative 6 root 3, and I'm going to distribute the 13. Okay, so once I do my distributing, I end up with 21 x prime squared minus 14 root 3 x prime y prime plus 7 y prime squared minus root 3 times root 3 would give me 3 times that negative 6. So I have negative 18 x prime squared minus 12 root 3 x prime y prime plus 18 y prime squared. So that takes care of that. Then I'm down here at this second, I forgot a parenthesis there. I'm down here on the second row here, so I'm going to write it below it. Plus 13 x prime squared plus 26 root 3 x prime y prime plus 39 y prime squared minus 64 is 0. Okay, so I've multiplied everything out. I did all my foiling, I did all my distributing, so now I have everything here. And from here, what I'm going to do is start simplifying. Let me move this down a little bit so we have a little more room. Okay, so let me start simplifying here. I have negative 14 root 3 x prime y prime minus 12 root 3 x prime y prime. That's negative 26 root 3 x prime y prime. That cancels with this plus 26 root 3 x prime y prime. So those are all gone. That takes care of that. Let's then combine all of our x prime squared terms. I have 21 minus, so let me cross them off as I go. 21 minus 18 would give me 3. 3 plus 13 would give me 16. So that's 16 x prime squared. Let's go to the y prime. So I've got 7 y prime squared plus 18. So 7 and 18 gives me 25. 25 and 39 gives me 64. So that gives me plus 64 y prime squared. If I move this 64 over to the other side, that leaves me with that. I'm going to run out of time. I just paused the video for a second so I could write this in so I don't run out of time. So when you divide through by 64, this is what you end up with. That way you know it's an ellipse, and it's an ellipse that is centered at the origin, rotated 30 degrees. You know your major axis there is A is 2, your B value here is 1, and that would be the equation of your ellipse. Okay, thanks everyone.